Now, given our fuel economy and price-conscious nature, car makers generally avoid bringing affordable sports cars to India. So whenever they offer us a car that is even remotely sporty, our little circle of enthusiasts gets super excited. So it is no surprise that the VRS versions of the Octavia and the Laura have had a big fan following. But that said, Škoda is still unsure if they want to bring the new Octavia RS to India. But because we love automobiles so much, we are going to be driving it anyway.
So on a really cold morning, we got a chance to drive the latest Octavia vRS around Prague and then at a small circuit on its outskirts. Needless to say, the roads in Prague are flooded with Škoda cars. But surprisingly, the VRS, despite being a boring grey-coloured car, still managed to attract a bit of attention. It looks largely similar to the top-spec Octavia sold to us, save for the honeycomb grille on the bumper, the spoiler on the boot and the LED tail lights. But it's hard to notice any of that. What you will notice though is the typical placement of the VRS badge on the grille, the red calipers and a black diffuser at the back with hexagonal muffler tips on either end. On the car you see here though, only the left-sided muffler has a functional exhaust pipe behind it. That's because the car we drove was a diesel.
Yes, you heard that right. That's a diesel engine under the hood. And I know you want to pounce back at me right now. Ask me what happened to that love of the automobile, being a crazy petrol head, those fast revving motors, that sound. I agree. I accept all that. The petrol is still the better engine here. However, this diesel motor, there are three figures about it that you just cannot ignore. Top speed, over 230 kilometers an hour. Acceleration, get your gear shifts right and this engine is capable of doing it in 8.1 seconds. A 0 to 100 in 8.1 seconds is pretty good. And when you're doing all these top speed runs and these acceleration runs, the engine will still return over 13.1 kilometers to a litre. Škoda is claiming 21. So if you ask me, this sort of performance is not just good enough to massage the enthusiast in you, but also maybe keep your financial advisor happy.
The diesel VRS also makes a surprisingly good sound. But if you can't hear it, well, that's because it makes those snarly sounds through the car's speaker. It's a virtual sound like in the M5. The RS sits 15mm lower than the regular Octavia and is suspended by McPherson struts and a multi-link axle combination for the front and back respectively. Though it is essentially the same combination as in the 1.8 TSI, the setup here is stiffer. The Octavia is based on the Volkswagen MQB platform, the same technology that underpins the Audi A3, but the Octavia handles and steers so much better.
Now this car has a front-wheel drive architecture, so you expect this car to have a lot of understeer, but there isn't much because this car has a very nicely tuned electronic differential. We are at a circuit, yes, but this track is pretty narrow and these turns are pretty tight. Now, on some other day, if I had a more powerful vehicle, I would have hated driving here. But today it just feels right because if this car does come to India, these are the kind of roads you're going to drive on when you take it out on your weekend drives. And believe me, it is pretty impressive even here. What I also particularly like is the steering setup. Now, this steering wheel has a variable geometry gear, which means that at lower speeds or at the initial turn-ins, the steering remains quite light, but as the speed increases or as the level of turning on the steering wheel increases, it tends to get heavier, it gains a lot of weight, and that's a very good thing. It's also very precise, and like I said, despite the front wheel drive architecture, with the electronic diff working very well, I think this is a very nice setup. The car feels quite precise, you know where it's going, and it's a good feeling to have.
The only thing that you may not like are the dark interiors. The black treatment for the interiors with the occasional red accents and 4 carbon fiber inserts may look a tad sporty, but may not feel as lively as the rest of the car. There are a few toys in the VRS, like the radar-guided cruise control, lane assist and multi-collision brake. The car has enough performance to keep you from feeling drowsy, but if you still do, the RS has an attention assist to wake you up. RS also lets you choose different driving modes through a VRS switch. Sport for sharper throttle and louder virtual exhaust sounds, and Eco to get more fuel economy from that diesel motor. No matter which mode you're in though, the car feels lively and always eager to put a smile on your face. When you spend enough time with a car, you will realize that a diesel RS isn't that ridiculous a combination. It has plenty of performance while also being economical.
Now, because this Octavia RS has a diesel motor, there's still a ray of hope that it may just come to India. Now, a few weeks back, I said that in the executive sedan segment, the Jetta is the car that I would want to buy. But if this car comes in the same price bracket,